A potential return for Jamal Adams to the Seattle Seahawks. Not what I expected. Oh, what a weird reaction to Jamal Adams coming back to the Seahawks. Why?
Don't want him at all. 0%. Get him out of this organization. We'll get into it later.
All right. A little whiny to start today's podcast.
I had to. I
by
just
George.
wanted.
Well, we're talking about Jamal Adams potentially not on a $70 million contract. A guy that would potentially come back on a, I don't know, minimum deal and be competing probably for the linebacker spot is what it sounds like. And so we'll see. It sounds like they're in discussions of not necessarily already talking about contracts, but just been in there's an interest in a return, and they have been following up with each other. It sounds like the other team interested, according to the Seattle Times, is the San Francisco 49ers, which would also
Another
be
team,
weird.
I should say, gross.
Yeah, that would be more gross because he also somehow would be really good on the 49ers just out of nowhere and be healthy. You know that would happen.
Yep.
You're listening to the Sports on Tap Seattle podcast. I'm Sammy, and with me, as always, is my older brother, George.
Your favorite place to be a fan of Seattle sports. Now let's get this party started.
But today, I'm going to do what we do on our other podcast. For those that don't know, if you look in the link in the descriptions, we have an NBA podcast, we have an NFL podcast. They're all in the links in the description. And we start those by doing one truth and one lie type of stats. And at the end of the show, we do a quiz all related to the topic or that day. So I'm going to start you off with one today, George, with
All right, I'm ready.
2 stats about Jamal Adams. And you got to guess which one is real. I made them similar on purpose. Okay, stat number 1. Jamal Adams' 9.5 sacks in 2020 were the most by a defensive back since 1982, since they recorded the stat, so the most ever. Jamal Adams' 21.5 sacks is the most, well, this is stat 2, sorry. Jamal Adams' 21.5 sacks is the most by a defensive back in NFL history.
The first one is correct. The most since 1982.
Yeah, it is. I feel like everyone knows that stat. That's a toughie. It is, though, the most ever by a defensive back in a season.
What year was that?
2020.
20. Okay.
Yeah. I think it was his first like full season with the Seahawks.
With the Seahawks.
He is in the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's 6th all time for defensive backs and sacks. Mm-hmm. Some of the guys above him are like Rodney Harrison, Rondé Barber, Brian Dawkins, only by 8 sacks, 8.5. So I mean, if he does come back and play defensive back and has a couple good seasons, he could easily break the record for most by defensive back. And I think one thing that's underestimated about Jamal Adams, can you guess his age?
29?
28. He's pretty young still.
I don't know. Like, what is the average NFL career? 4 years? Like, on average,
Yeah, but not
3
for
seasons?
not for like players of his level usually.
Well, his level, he hasn't been on a good level since 2020. That's the problem with me and Jamal Adams. Like, I feel like, one, he hasn't really been able to stay healthy. And as you get older, you don't just get, like, miraculously more healthy. Ask me. Torn rotator cuff. Not a guy, like, by the way, I don't blame the players for injuries. It's not his fault. He works his butt off. Like, I did feel bad for him over and over trying to come back and getting hurt again. Some of them unfortunate, some just bad luck. But you don't get miraculously more healthy as an NFL player as you age. Like, and I just feel like we've seen the best of Jamal Adams. It's time to move on. I know it's a minimum contract, but he also burned a lot of freaking bridges in Seattle as far as with like the fan base, media, and people just don't seem to really find him to be the biggest joy in the room. I just feel like I'm tired of Jamal Adams' story. Want that chapter of Seahawks history to be gone. Take our losses with the first round draft picks and just move on. That's just how I feel about Jamal Adams. I don't necessarily feel like, and then to move him to linebacker, we don't even know if he could actually end up playing linebacker, if that's an actual fit. I'm just done with Jamal Adams, personally.
Fair. I don't know. I feel 50-50 on that. Like, I feel 50-50 about everything you just said, too. I mean, I think a lot of some of the bridges he burned with media and different things some of them were not even Seattle media. It was mostly like one person in Seattle media. Him and Softy were like not cool.
And
but
Brock
Softy was,
and Brock Heward.
yeah, but they were also being like dicks to him too. But Jamal Adams also has a history of being mean to media. So there's both sides to it. And at the end of the day, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to tell you who knows better than you and I is John Schneider or a guy like Mike McDonald. So if they do think he should be able to come in and play linebacker and sign him, I'll probably trust their judgment a little more than myself. But at the end of the day,
I got to say, though, I hate that argument so much. You know why? I'll just tell you why.
Because you're smarter than that.
No, not because I'm smarter than them. Not because I'm smarter than them. But it's because it's like if my opinion was to sit here and say whatever John Schneider says, I got to follow blindly, then there would be no reason to be on this podcast on a YouTube channel. I mean, this is coming from like the other day on our Mariners channel. You tweeted that we should start Urias over Rojas, and then it shouldn't be just like, no, Sammy shouldn't have an opinion because Scott Service knows more about baseball than him.
Okay. We started this with you rolling your eyes and being whiny about Jamal Adams. And you were
about Jamal Adams, not about you. So I'm just saying, I feel like it's okay.
But that doesn't mean that when you say we don't know if he can play linebacker, I'm saying I understand that. We've never seen him play linebacker. But if somehow NFL coaches and a GM bring him in to try him at linebacker, I'm just saying I trust their judgment a little more than ours if he has a possibility of playing linebacker. That's like saying, no, totally. I actually am more certain he can't play linebacker because I said so than if like a coach thinks he can. I think coaches probably have a better judgment.
100% they have a better 100% they have a better judgment, but I just don't feel like your judgment or my judgment should be irrelevant because John Schneider thinks one way. He could draft some. Well, I know, but you said, "Oh, you're smarter than John Schneider." No, I'm not smarter about football than John Schneider. Just happen. That's my opinion.
That argument doesn't work, and I'm saying, well, it does technically. Like, no matter what opinion I have on Jamal Adams or an NFL player, at the end of the day, if a team has a bet, like if I thought it's stupid for the 49ers to start Brock Purdy, and then he goes to a Super Bowl, like, yeah, they probably had a better judgment. And sometimes your guess is better than an NFL coach.
True,
GM. So
but John Schneider also traded 2 first-round draft picks for Jamal Adams. Maybe he's just in love with Jamal Adams and he's wrong about Jamal Adams and he is just hell-bent on making him work. That's also a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they were never wrong about Jamal Adams. His injury history made it wrong. So yeah, I think that's also
fair too.
That's not, you can't really put injury in the same sentence of something working or not working. At the end of the day, there's no really Jamal Adams had one of the greatest seasons for his safety. He had the most sacks for a defensive back in NFL history in one season.
Do you remember that season vividly or no?
With the Seahawks.
Do you remember how much he got burned in coverage that season and how much he was like an internet meme for being burned in coverage?
He's not a coverage guy. So I mean, at the end of the day,
I totally get that. But like you said, he had a historic season. He just ended up having a lot of sacks.
I didn't say that. I said he had the most sacks in NFL history for a defensive back. So I didn't. That's not. I didn't say he did have a historic season for sacks for a defensive back.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean I said he's the greatest defensive back of all time. And once again, I think that simply it's just all I said was he got hurt. I mean, at the end of the day, all I said, once again, I don't know why you're so worked up about Jamal Adams. All I said is we don't know how he could have worked out if he didn't get hurt. At the end of the day, I can't tell you if he was going to work great, average, below average. I know that it turned out to be a bad, I guess, whatever it was, 4 years, a bad 4 years in terms of was he able to stay on the field? First and foremost, no. It was a bad 4 years, and it was a bad trade. Absolutely. But that doesn't necessarily mean that if somehow he was able to stay healthy, that they would have been an awful experience all along.
Yeah, maybe it would have been a much better experience if he stayed healthy, but he didn't. I'm like, look, if he re-signs, I'm not going to sit there and root against Jamal Adams to play bad for the Seahawks. So I'm right. Like, I want him to play good for the Seahawks if he comes back. But if you're asking me, would I like to see Jamal Adams come back to the Seahawks? My answer is no.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that's
all it is.
I didn't say you should say yes. I just think at the end of the day, I don't know if we can assess it as a bad trade is what I was saying in terms of...
You can totally assess it as a bad trade at this point.
I'm not going to finish my sentence. I was just saying I can't assess if it was a bad trade if he was going to be healthy is what I was trying to say. But
fair,
because
but he
I
wasn't
don't
healthy,
know
unfortunately.
if somehow he ends up signing with us or the 49ers or some team for $1.1 million for a season and stays healthy, he's probably a decent value at that number. And that's where I think it all is relative to health. I mean, at the end of the day, we've seen that with a lot of players in the NFL. We've seen a lot of careers come to ends over health. We've seen, guys who were supposed to have historic careers, like RG3 had a amazing rookie season and was an amazing college player. Career cut short due to injuries. We've seen Andrew Lucks of the world have to retire because of injury. We've seen a lot of players just never be themselves again. I mean, even Seahawks players. Chris Carson was, an amazing running back for the Seahawks until injuries just stacked up. And Cam Chancellor's career ended with injuries. Football is such a hard sport and to your point on the injury stuff is, at some point, you don't get younger. So with Jamal Adams, if you've had 4 straight years of injury problems, regardless of the price, what's stopping that, right? What's stopping you from getting hurt?
I mean, I would love for him to not get hurt, obviously. He's a human. Injuries suck. They're not fun. It's not good. But I don't necessarily think we have any data to prove that he's going to come back and get healthier after 4 straight injury-ridden seasons. And that's why I would vote. If I was a GM, I would just cut my losses and say, I don't want Jamal Adams on this team, even though I traded 2 first-round draft picks for him. So now I'm going to try to validate my loss by trying to make sure he comes back and finally is successful. As I think what John Schneider is doing. If Jamal Adams used to play for the Atlanta Falcons and he was a free agent right now, I don't think the Seahawks would be looking at him.
Yeah, that's fair, but that means because they would also not know what he's like. I mean, at the end of the day, I think one thing that you definitely got like a little mixed up here is you said like he's known to be a problem in the locker room or this. I don't even think they would even discuss bringing him back if they thought he was a problem in the locker room.
I don't think I said the words problem in the locker room. I said he was a problem with the media. Never in the locker room. I have no idea about the locker room. Did not say that.
We'll run the tape. You said with the players, I believe, but I'm just saying. We'll run the tape back on that one. I'm saying at the end of the day, they obviously like him for some reason if they're even considering it, right? So I don't know if and I don't think if Mike McDonald wasn't interested, they wouldn't consider it, right? Like,
totally.
It's not just a John Schneider thing here. I think they're thinking about the problem is Seahawks cap space is so bad. I think that they are, could we say in desperation mode where it's like, hey, could we use this guy somehow? If we know him, is there some way we could use him and make it work out? Because when you're cap space, they're at 1.6 million in cap space, and they need to restructure things. They haven't even signed the draft picks yet. They have a shit ton of restructuring to do here and movement to make. So there's also, and it's an unfortunate reasoning behind it all, but there is also that potential desperation mode coming in. Yeah.
Well, what do you think? Would you, if it was your choice, would you want him back or no?
Well, it depends on if it's a super cheap deal and they actually believe he could produce at the linebacker position, or do somewhat of a hybrid. I mean, we do need some more depth at safety, potentially at linebacker, potentially if they think that they can use him in some way, and it's a super duper duper we're talking about like a vet minimum deal. I don't see why not if they actually believe he would be good, for the locker room, a good veteran piece, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, I have a soft spot for like, it'd be cool to see. I loved, Bobby Wagner last year. Bobby Wagner's a different level, obviously. Yeah, a legend. But I like seeing people get their like second chance or come back. Like I would like to. I don't know. I just don't think it's the worst idea in the world. If they think that they could use him as like a hybrid type of guy, maybe at linebacker, less flying in from the safety. Like last year, he got hurt from flying in for a great tackle from safety. Safety, I think his body is just not meant to be a safety anymore. Like one hit flying in.
It totally could be.
Yeah, he had one hit flying in, head to, helmet to the knee and got dizzy and it's over. It was over again. So I think at the end of the day, we'll see what happens with them. We need to I think the Seahawks have a lot other things to figure out right now first when it comes to contracts and situations before they would even consider it. The one thing I just don't want to see is him go to the 49ers because I just have this horrible feeling that if he goes to the 49ers, somehow he would just have like a crazy revamped season.
Yeah, but it's very possible. I don't know. Just don't really necessarily think it's... I mean, he's definitely a guy who's had talent in the past. I feel like he's 28. He's old for a football player. He's a veteran. I think unfortunately, his best days are behind him. If I'm wrong, great, because that means he got better and he got healthy. And health is good. It's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens with him. See if he's even healthy like going into the offseason. I don't know what's going on with him. Once again, for me, the simple answer for me is I just don't want to see him at the 49ers because I feel like they could.
Fair enough.
They always find a way to make fucking people make people good, and I don't want to see him like go there and be good all of a sudden against us.
That's totally fair.
I have the quiz for you at the end of the show. Can you name the top 10 players with the most touchdowns in Seahawks history, non-quarterback, only position?
Oh, non-quarterback. Okay. How long are you giving me?
I'm just giving you until you can't figure it out.
All right. Sean Alexander.
He is number 1.
Steve Largent.
He is number 2.
Let's see. Non-quarterback. Joey Galloway.
He is number 10.
All right. Wow. Just barely escaped that one. Doug Baldwin.
He is in there. Number 5, I think. 6.
Okay.
Joey Galloway might have been number 11, but it's fine.
Ricky Waters.
He is not in it.
Not in it. Chris Warren.
He is right after Doug Baldwin at 48 touchdowns. You're only missing only what? 5? You got
That's
5.
it? Wow, that's not bad.
You had
actually.
Who'd you do? You have Alexander, Largent, Warren,
Baldwin, Galloway.
Galloway. Yeah, that's 5 out of the.
Okay. Going back, Galloway. He said Waters was not on there. Chris Warren, Sean Alexander, Marshawn Lynch.
Marshawn is 3rd on the list.
All right, so 4 more. Daryl Jackson.
He is not on the list. 4 more. There should be 2 of them that are really.
Tyler Lockett.
Yep, he's 4th.
DK Metcalf.
Yep, he's above Joey Galloway by 1 touchdown. So you have
Wow,
1 left.
already. Okay. Which era of Seahawks football?
Old era.
I knew it was going to be old era. Christian Fourier.
No.
Okay. Non-quarterback. Is it hard?
Same initials as somebody else.
Is it hard?
No. Same initials as somebody else that you mentioned already.
Joey Galloway?
No.
Which player?
Chris Warren.
CW?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Give
I
you
don't
10
know.
seconds.
Just give it to me.
He's number
I'm blanking.
5 on the list.
I'm just blanking right now. I probably know it when you say
Kurt
it.
Warner.
Kurt Warner. Yeah, that's fair.
I'm actually surprised you got Chris Warren and not Kurt Warner.
Kurt Warner. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Should have had that one.
Yeah, I should have had that one. But
Yeah.
that wasn't bad. I got 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10, yeah. That you should have had that one though. That was
No, I
I
should've.
thought that was gonna be an earlier one. But the list goes like pretty dude, like Chris Carson's at 31 touchdowns. It's like not far from the top 10.
You know why it threw me off when you said Kurt Warner? I was thinking of a K, not a C, but that's the Rams Kurt Warner with a K.
Yeah. Different
Yeah.
Kurt, different position. Non-quarterback.
Yeah, no, I know, but just different initials too.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, we'll be back next time. We did a draft. What was it? Like talking about each draft pick. We did that video the other day on Saturday. And we'll be back another time this week, probably 1 or 2 more this week. So stay tuned. Turn on the notifications. If you're listening on YouTube, you can find the podcast in the link in the description. If you're on the podcast, you can find the links into the social media and YouTubes in there as well. I'm little bro Sammy, and as always with me is my older brother George. And you know what we like to say, my friend?
Thank you for stopping by.
We'll see you next time. Peace.